Hello, especially for the Dirty Secrets channel.
Catherine Mercer stood before the antique mirror that dominated their bedroom wall, adjusting the pearl necklace her husband James had given her for their 10th anniversary. The mirror had been his gift too, a family heirloom he tracked down after months of searching, knowing how much she loved vintage pieces. Like everything in their meticulously renovated Victorian home, it was perfect. Just like their marriage. Or so she thought. She leaned closer, dabbing at a smudge of mascara beneath her eye. The mirror's ornate silver frame caught the afternoon light, creating dancing patterns across her face. As she pulled back, something flickered in the reflection, a shadow where no shadow should be, a silhouette behind her shoulder that vanished when she turned. Catherine spun around. The bedroom was empty. When she faced the mirror again, everything appeared normal, but a chill lingered on her skin. For the briefest moment, she could have sworn she'd seen a woman's face, not her own, watching her from within the glass. "Cat? We're going to be late," James called from downstairs. His voice, warm and familiar, anchored her back to reality. "Coming," she replied, giving the mirror one last uncertain glance before heading down to meet her husband, pushing the strange moment from her mind. After all, theirs was a life others envied, successful careers, a beautiful home, and a partnership built on trust and passion. But as they drove to the charity gala that evening, Catherine couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted, like the first hairline crack in a flawless surface. Catherine first noticed the change 3 weeks after the incident with the mirror. Nothing dramatic, just subtle differences in James's routine. Late nights at the architecture firm became more frequent. His phone would buzz, and he'd step into another room to answer. When she asked about work, his responses grew vague, peppered with unfamiliar names and projects he hadn't mentioned before. "Who's Claire?" she asked one evening as they prepared dinner. She'd glimpsed the name repeatedly in his text notifications. James's knife paused mid-chop. New client. Difficult project. Historic building with foundation issues. "You've never mentioned her before." "Haven't I?" He resumed chopping with mechanical precision. "She came on board last month. Big commission if we pull it off." Catherine nodded, watching the back of his neck where a flush had appeared. James had always been a terrible liar. It was one of the things she loved about him. In 12 years together, she'd never had reason to doubt him. Until now. That night, she woke at 3 a.m. to find his side of the bed empty. Downstairs, she heard him murmuring in the study, voice hushed but intense. When he returned to bed 20 minutes later, he claimed he couldn't sleep and had been reviewing blueprints. A week later, a receipt fell from his jacket pocket, an expensive restaurant Catherine had never visited, a dinner for two on a night he'd claimed to be working late. "Business dinner," he explained when she asked. Client insisted. Was it Claire? The question escaped before she could consider it. Something hardened in his eyes. "Why the interrogation, Cat? Don't you trust me anymore?" Question hung between them like a wall. Of course she trusted him. She always had. So why did everything suddenly feel like a performance, lines rehearsed and delivered on cue? And why, when she passed their bedroom mirror that night, did she glimpse a woman's red lipstick on the collar of a shirt hanging in their closet, a stain that vanished when she went to examine it? The mirror began revealing more disturbances in the weeks that followed. Catherine would catch movements at its edges, a flash of blonde hair, a silhouette taller than her own, a hand reaching across the reflection when she was standing perfectly still. One morning, as she applied her makeup, she saw a hotel keycard on their dresser in the mirror. When she turned to look, nothing was there. Turning back, the keycard remained in the reflection, its logo clearly visible. The Grand Metropolitan, a luxury hotel downtown. Catherine began spending more time before the mirror, waiting for these anomalies. They came unpredictably, a woman's earring on their bedside table, visible only in reflection. A text conversation displayed on James's phone that she couldn't find when she later checked the device. A lipstick smudge on her husband's collar that appeared in the mirror but wasn't present in reality. Am I losing my mind? She whispered to her reflection one afternoon. The woman staring back seemed increasingly like a stranger, dark circles under her eyes, tension etched around her mouth. That evening, as she was getting ready for bed, the mirror showed James entering their bedroom. But the reflection James walked differently, confident, almost swaggering. He looked younger, unburdened. He approached a woman sitting at Catherine's vanity, a blonde woman who wasn't Catherine. Catherine whirled around, heart pounding, but their bedroom was empty. When she turned back to the mirror, it showed only her terrified face. She began avoiding the mirror, covering it with a sheet when James wasn't home. He noticed immediately. "What's this about?" he asked, pulling the fabric down. "The mirror. I keep seeing things in it." His expression shifted from confusion to concern. "Seeing things? Like what?" "Like a woman. Reflections that shouldn't be there." The words sounded insane even to her ears. James's face softened. He put his arms around her. "Kat, you've been working too hard. That promotion has you stressed. Maybe you should talk to someone." "I'm not imagining it," she insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. That night, she woke to find James gone again. Half asleep, she walked to the bathroom and flicked on the light. In the medicine cabinet mirror, she saw James in what appeared to be a hotel room, the blonde woman in his arms. Catherine gasped, and the image vanished, replaced by her own horrified face. She stumbled back to bed, her heart hammering. When James returned an hour later claiming he'd been in the kitchen reviewing project files, she pretended to be asleep, watching through barely open eyes as he carefully arranged his expression into one of innocence before climbing into bed beside her. Catherine waited until James left for a 3-day conference in Chicago before searching their home. She found nothing in his dresser drawers, nothing in his desk. His laptop required a password she didn't know. Frustrated, she sat at his desk, trying combinations, her birthday, their anniversary, his childhood dog's name, all failures. On impulse, she tried Claire. The screen unlocked. Her hands trembling, Catherine navigated through his files, finding nothing suspicious until she checked his cloud storage. There, in a folder labeled Metropolitan Project, she found dozens of photos, James with a blonde woman at restaurants, in parks, and in what was clearly a hotel room. The woman wore an emerald necklace in several photos, a distinctive piece with a teardrop pendant. Catherine sat back, nausea rising in her throat. The photos confirmed what the mirror had been showing her, but how had she seen these images before finding them? A new email notification appeared on James's screen from Claire with a hotel confirmation attached. The Grand Metropolitan tonight. But James was in Chicago. Or was he? Catherine called his firm. "I need to reach James Mercer urgently," she told the receptionist. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Mercer, but Mr. Mercer took personal leave this week. He's not in Chicago." The world tilted beneath her. Moving as if underwater, Catherine retrieved the hidden key to their safe, where they kept important documents. Inside, alongside their passports, she found a small velvet box containing an emerald necklace, identical to the one in the photos. As she held it, sunlight struck the bedroom mirror. In its reflection, Catherine saw the blonde woman standing behind her, wearing the same necklace, smiling coldly. She dropped the jewelry and spun around. The room was empty. When she faced the mirror again, she was alone in its reflection, but now she noticed something she'd overlooked, a distinctive painting on the wall of the hotel room in one of the photos. She recognized it. It hung in the dining room of the Grand Metropolitan. Catherine knew what she had to do. "You went where?" James stood in their kitchen, his face a mask of bewilderment tinged with anger. He'd returned early from his conference, claiming his meetings had been canceled. The Grand Metropolitan. Catherine kept her voice steady. "I know about Claire." James's expression shifted to concern. "Kat, there's no Claire. Not the way you're thinking." "I saw the photos, James. I found the necklace." "What photos?" What necklace? His confusion seemed genuine, making her doubt herself for a moment. On your laptop. The emerald necklace in the safe. He shook his head slowly. My laptop password is your birthday. Always has been. And there's no necklace in our safe. Kat, you're scaring me. I can show you, she insisted, leading him upstairs. But when she opened the safe, the velvet box was gone. When she tried to access his laptop again, the password Claire failed. See, he said gently. Claire is a building project, not a person. The Grand Metropolitan Renovation. That's why you're seeing the name. But I went there. I described you to the staff, and what did they say? His voice remained patient, reasonable. They wouldn't confirm anything. The hotel staff had indeed been unhelpful, citing privacy policies. James took her hands. Kat, I think you should see Dr. Levine again. These paranoid thoughts, the hallucinations in the mirror, they're like what happened after your mother died. Catherine pulled away. This isn't like that. I'm not having a breakdown. Your mother had episodes too, remember? Before her diagnosis. His tone was gentle, but the words cut deep. Catherine's mother had suffered from paranoid delusions before her early-onset dementia was diagnosed. I'm not my mother, she whispered. Course not. He embraced her. But stress can trigger things, especially with family history. Let's get you help before this gets worse. That night, Catherine lay awake beside her sleeping husband, doubt gnawing at her certainty. Had she imagined it all? Created an elaborate delusion from innocent fragments? From across the room, the mirror gleamed in the darkness. In its depths, she thought she saw it again, the emerald necklace glittering around her own neck. The hallucinations, if that's what they were, intensified. The mirror now showed Catherine vivid scenes, James and the blonde woman entering a lakeside cabin, James creating a separate bank account, the woman wearing Catherine's jewelry, sleeping in Catherine's bed. Following her husband's suggestion, Catherine began seeing Dr. Levine again. She didn't mention the mirror. James thinks I'm having paranoid episodes, she explained instead. He says I'm imagining an affair. Dr. Levine observed her carefully. And what do you think, Catherine? I think. She hesitated. I think something is happening that I don't understand. After their session, Catherine sat in her car, staring at the prescription for anti-anxiety medication. Something felt wrong about James's concern, his insistence on her mental fragility. The James she knew would have been hurt by her accusations, defensive perhaps, but not this calculating. On impulse, she started her car and drove to the Grand Metropolitan. The reception desk, she described James and asked if he was a regular guest. I'm afraid we can't disclose guest information, the young man said apologetically. Catherine nodded, turning to leave when she spotted it, the painting from the photos, hanging exactly as she'd seen it in the mirror's reflections. That painting, she said. It's been there for how long? Since our renovation 3 months ago, he replied. Are you interested in the artist? 3 months ago, when James had brought home the mirror. As Catherine drove home, pieces began falling into place. The mirror had been in James's family, he'd claimed. A surprise gift he'd tracked down. But Catherine now remembered something odd. James had arranged its delivery and installation on a day she was out of town. At home, she examined the mirror more closely. The ornate silver frame bore tiny symbols she hadn't noticed before, runes or sigils of some kind. And when she ran her fingers along the back, she felt something tucked into the frame, a small card yellowed with age. The card contained a single sentence in faded ink. What is done before the glass shall be revealed within the glass. Catherine stared at her reflection, understanding dawning. The mirror wasn't causing hallucinations, it was showing her truth. But how? And why? Later that evening, the mirror revealed its most disturbing vision yet. In its reflection, Catherine saw James and the blonde woman standing in what appeared to be a lawyer's office, examining documents. As James signed the papers, Catherine could clearly see the header, "Transfer of property." He was planning to leave her, to take everything. But there was something else, something about the blonde woman's expression as she watched James sign. Not triumph or happiness, but calculation. Cold assessment. The mirror was warning her of betrayal, but perhaps not the kind she'd imagined. Catherine became methodical. Each time the mirror showed her a new scene, she documented it, searching for patterns and connections. The visions weren't random, they followed a timeline, showing events in sequence. Using her skills as a corporate researcher, Catherine began investigating. She tracked James's movements using the tracking app they'd installed years ago for safety. His frequent visits to the Grand Metropolitan aligned perfectly with the mirror's visions. Next, she focused on the woman. In one reflection, Catherine had seen a business card on a nightstand with the name Diana Ellington, investment consultant. A quick LinkedIn search confirmed her existence and her connection to James's firm as a client. Catherine built a comprehensive timeline. James had met Diana 6 months ago during a consultation on urban development properties. Their affair had begun shortly after. The mirror had started showing reflections 3 months ago when James brought it home. But the property transfer documents troubled her most. Was James planning to leave her destitute? Catherine accessed their joint accounts and discovered large withdrawals, money moving to an account she couldn't trace. Their investment portfolio had been gradually liquidated. One night, following another vision in the mirror, Catherine drove to the lakeside cabin she'd seen in the reflection. Hidden by trees, she watched James and Diana arrive. Through binoculars, she observed them arguing intensely on the deck. Diana seemed to be pressuring James, who looked distraught, running his hands through his hair in the gesture Catherine knew indicated extreme stress. This didn't look like passion. It looked like manipulation. Back home, Catherine examined the mirror again. "Show me what she wants," she whispered, feeling foolish yet desperate. The surface shimmered, then revealed Diana alone in an office, examining architectural plans Catherine recognized as James's designs for a controversial development project. Diana was photographing them with her phone, her expression triumphant. Corporate espionage? But why would the mirror care about that? Catherine needed answers about the mirror itself. The card she'd found offered little explanation, but the symbols on the frame might. After extensive research into antique mirrors and occult symbolism, she found a specialist in paranormal objects, Dr. Eleanor Voss, whose academic papers on psychically imprinted artifacts provided a theory. Some objects could absorb and reflect emotional energy, particularly from traumatic events or intense betrayal. According to Dr. Voss, such objects often attached themselves to people in similar circumstances, acting as warnings. But who had owned the mirror before? And what had happened to them? The answer came unexpectedly. While searching property records related to James's firm, Catherine discovered that their home, the Victorian they'd renovated, had previously belonged to the Ellington family. Diana's family. The mirror hadn't been in James's family. It had been in Diana's. And now Catherine understood what the mirror was trying to tell her. History was repeating itself. Catherine waited in the coffee shop, her hands wrapped around a mug she hadn't tasted. Across from her sat Evelyn Marsh, 86 years old and sharp as a tack. "You said on the phone this concerns the Ellington mirror," Evelyn said. "How did you come to possess it?" "My husband gave it to me." Catherine hesitated. "It shows me things that are happening when I'm not there." Evelyn didn't look surprised. "It showed me things too 60 years ago. Too late to save me, but perhaps in time to save you." Catherine listened as Evelyn told her story. She had been married to Robert Marsh, a business partner of Thomas Ellington, Diana's grandfather. Robert had fallen for Thomas's wife, Margaret. "The mirror belonged to Margaret," Evelyn explained. "A family heirloom with a dark history." Legend held that it was cursed during the Salem trials, a witch's final vengeance against the man who betrayed her. "What happened?" Catherine asked. "Robert and Margaret plotted to take everything from Thomas and from me. The mirror showed me their plans, but I didn't believe it until they'd succeeded. Thomas lost everything, including his life. Parents' suicide." Evelyn's voice hardened. "And I was committed to an asylum for my delusions about a talking mirror. How did you get out?" "By pretending I was cured. By the time I was released, Robert had died in a boating accident with Margaret. The authorities called it misfortune. I called it justice." "And the mirror?" "Disappeared for decades. Tends to find its way to women being betrayed. The question is, what will you do with its warnings?" Catherine frowned. "I thought James was having a simple affair, but it's more complicated. This woman, Diana Ellington, your husband's lover's granddaughter, seems to be using him to access proprietary designs." Evelyn laughed bitterly. "Oh, child. If Diana is anything like her grandmother, it's far worse than corporate espionage." After leaving Evelyn, Catherine drove directly to Diana Ellington's downtown office. She had no plan, only determination. The receptionist was away from the desk, giving Catherine the opportunity to slip into Diana's office unnoticed. The space was minimalist and cold, like the woman herself, Catherine thought. She quickly searched the desk drawers, finding nothing until she checked beneath the desk. A hidden compartment contained a laptop. Catherine opened it, unsurprised when the password James granted her access. What she found confirmed her worst fears and went beyond them. Extensive dossiers on wealthy men, including James, detailed plans for her family's Victorian home, and most disturbing, a file labeled Elimination Contingencies. Inside were meticulous plans for what appeared to be James's murder, disguised as a suicide, with a falsified note confessing to professional misconduct. Insurance policies, property transfers, all would benefit Diana. "He's not her lover," Catherine realized. "He's her mark." "Very good, Mrs. Mercer." Catherine spun around. Diana stood in the doorway, as immaculate and cold as her office. "The mirror showed you, didn't it?" Diana stepped inside, closing the door. "Grandmother Margaret always said it was a nuisance. Should have stayed buried where James found it." "Where James found it?" Catherine repeated. Diana smiled. "In the foundation of your house during renovations. I made sure he found it, made sure he gave it to you. I needed you distracted by his apparent infidelity while I positioned everything else." "But you and he, oh, we're sleeping together. That part's real. Men are so predictably manipulable." Diana moved closer. "But he's just the means to reclaim what should have been my family's legacy, that house, the fortune your husband's firm built on my grandfather's stolen designs. History correcting itself." "By murdering James? By destroying me?" Diana shrugged. "The mirror shows the truth, Catherine. But knowing the truth doesn't mean you can change the ending." As Diana reached into her desk drawer, Catherine noticed the emerald necklace at her throat, the same one from the mirror's visions. But now she understood its significance. It had belonged to Margaret Ellington, part of the fortune lost decades ago. Diana withdrew a pistol. "Now, Mrs. Mercer, let's discuss how this ends." Catherine sat across from James in their living room, the damning evidence spread between them, Diana's laptop, the plans, everything. "I don't understand," he whispered, ashen-faced. "She said she loved me." "She loves what you represent, revenge, wealth, your connection to this house." James buried his face in his hands. "The things I've done, Kat. The lies. How can you even look at me? Because right now, your affair is the least of our problems. She plans to kill you, James. Frame you for professional misconduct and stage your suicide." He looked up, eyes hollow. "Maybe I deserve it. No one deserves that." Catherine leaned forward. "But we need to be smart. She doesn't know I've discovered everything." James nodded slowly. "What do we do? First, you need to tell me everything. Every detail of your relationship with her. What she knows, what she's pressured you to do." Catherine's voice was steady, almost clinical. "Then we plan." As James confessed, the affair, the business secrets he'd shared, the property transfers he'd begun processing, Catherine watched him with surprising detachment. The betrayal still hurt, but the mirror had prepared her, giving her time to process her pain in advance. "There's something else," James admitted finally. "She wanted me to convince you to commit yourself for psychiatric treatment. Said your episodes were getting worse, that it would be more humane than divorce." Catherine thought of Evelyn Marsh, committed for decades because of what she'd seen in the mirror. That was never going to happen. They formulated a plan. James would meet Diana at the lakeside cabin as planned that weekend, wearing a recording device. Catherine would alert authorities once they had concrete evidence of Diana's intentions. But when Saturday arrived, James received a text changing the meeting location to their home. Diana was coming to them. "She's changing the script," Catherine realized. The mirror didn't show this. They had only hours to prepare. Catherine called Detective Rodriguez, who had been skeptical but agreed to monitor the situation. She hid microphones throughout the house and prepared James with specific questions to ask. When Diana arrived, her normally perfect composure showed cracks. She glanced repeatedly at the staircase leading to the bedroom where the mirror hung. "We should talk privately," she told James, eyeing Catherine warily. "No more secrets," James replied, following their script. "Whatever you want to say it to both of us." Diana's smile was brittle. "Very well. Catherine, your husband and I have been working on a special project, the reclamation of properties that rightfully belong to my family, including this house." "By murdering him and framing him for professional misconduct?" Catherine asked bluntly. Diana's expression didn't change. "What an absurd accusation. We have your plans, Diana. Your laptop, the elimination contingencies file. It's over." For a moment, Diana merely blinked. Then she laughed, a sound so genuinely amused that Catherine faltered. "Oh, Catherine, the mirror doesn't show everything." Diana reached into her purse, withdrawing not a gun but a folded document. "This is a confession signed by James 3 weeks ago, admitting to corporate espionage, design theft, and fraud. One call from me, and his career is over, possibly his freedom too." James paled. "You said that was a non-disclosure agreement. You should read what you signed, darling." Diana turned back to Catherine. "I don't need to kill anyone. James will lose everything legally. And you, well, the papers you signed during your house refinancing last month? They transferred ownership to a trust one control." Catherine's blood ran cold. "I never signed any refinancing documents. Your signature suggests otherwise." Diana smiled. "Amazing what people can forge these days." As the implications sank in, Catherine realized the mirror's warnings had been incomplete. It had shown her the affair, the betrayal, but not this level of calculated destruction. Diana moved toward the door. "I'll give you 2 days to vacate. Consider it generous." As she reached for the doorknob, Catherine asked, "Why did you want James to give me the mirror?" Diana paused. "Family tradition. Every Ellington bride received it on her wedding day. It shows the bearer painful truths they're powerless to change. I thought it would be poetic for you to watch your life unravel, knowing you couldn't stop it." "But I did stop it," Catherine replied. "'Cause you made one critical mistake." "And what was that?" Catherine smiled. "You assumed I was as gullible as the women who came before me." On cue, Detective Rodriguez stepped from the kitchen, recorder in hand. "Diana Ellington, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, coercion, and attempted extortion." Diana's composure finally shattered. As the detective read her rights, she lunged for Catherine, screaming, "The mirror was supposed to destroy you like it destroyed the others." As Rodriguez restrained her, Catherine responded calmly, "The mirror didn't destroy them. People like you did." In the aftermath of Diana's arrest, Catherine and James attempted to rebuild. Criminal case against Diana proceeded smoothly, the recorded confession damning her completely. The forged documents were invalidated, James's unwitting confession rendered meaningless. Yet something troubled Catherine. Diana's arrest had been too easy, her breakdown too complete. The calculated woman Catherine had met in her office wouldn't have implicated herself so blatantly. She wanted to be caught, Catherine realized one night, staring at the ceiling. But why? The answer came 3 weeks later when James received a call from his firm's attorney. Despite Diana's arrest, design schematics had been leaked to competitors. Millions in potential contracts were lost. "They're launching an internal investigation," James told Catherine, his face grave. "Someone's still feeding information out." That night, Catherine sat before the mirror, studying her reflection. "Show me what I'm missing," she whispered. The mirror's surface rippled, then revealed James in his office, removing design files from a secure server. Not recently, months ago, before Diana had entered their lives. Another scene. James meeting with a man Catherine recognized as the CEO of a rival firm, exchanging documents for a thick envelope. Then another. James discovering the mirror during their home's renovations, researching its history, learning of Diana Ellington and her family connection to the house. The final vision showed James contacting Diana, not the other way around. Catherine felt the world dissolve around her. James hadn't been Diana's victim. He had sought her out, used her obsession with reclaiming her family legacy to create the perfect scapegoat for his own corporate espionage. The affair, the gaslighting, Diana's elaborate revenge scheme, all of it orchestrated by James to cover his actual crimes. He had been selling secrets for years, long before Diana appeared. When James returned home that evening, Catherine was waiting, the mirror looming behind her. "How long have you been selling your firm's designs?" she asked without preamble. James froze in the doorway. For a moment, he seemed about to deny it. Then his shoulders sagged. 5 years, he admitted, since they passed me over for partner. "And Diana? You sought her out, didn't you?" He nodded slowly. "I found articles about her family's obsession with this house, with reclaiming their legacy. When the investigation at work got too close, I needed a distraction. Someone else to take the fall. So you gave me the mirror, knowing what it would show me." "I underestimated it," James said. "It was supposed to show you the affair, make you doubt yourself. You were supposed to fall apart, not become a detective." "You wanted me committed," Catherine realized. "Like Evelyn Marsh. Diana's idea, actually. But convenient." Catherine felt oddly calm, her mind crystal clear. "Why tell me now? Why confess?" James smiled thinly. "Because it doesn't matter anymore. The files Diana had? Worthless. The real designs, the revolutionary ones that will make billions? I've already sold them. The money's in offshore accounts. You're running. We could run together, Kat. Start fresh." Catherine laughed, a hollow sound. "After everything? I do love you," he said, and the terrible thing was she believed him. "I just love success more." "You betrayed everyone. Your firm, Diana, me. The mirror showed me the affair to warn me, but I was looking at the wrong betrayal." James stepped closer. "The mirror shows what you fear most. You feared losing me to another woman. You should have feared what I was becoming." As he reached for her, Catherine saw the glint of metal in his hand. A knife from their kitchen. "I'm sorry, Kat. I can't leave witnesses. Not even you." Detective Rodriguez frowned at the report on his desk. The case had grown more bizarre with each revelation. "Run through the sequence again," he told the officer across from him. James Mercer is found dead in his home, single stab wound to the chest. His wife Catherine claims self-defense, says he attacked her after she confronted him about corporate espionage. And the evidence supports this? Mostly. The knife has her prints, but in a defensive position. His prints are over hers. The offshore accounts exist. The rival firm confirms receiving stolen designs. Rodriguez tapped his pen against the report. What about Diana Ellington? Still maintained she was framed, that James approached her with a scheme to recover her family home. Says she never planned to kill anyone. And the mirror? The supposed psychic object Mrs. Mercer kept mentioning? The officer hesitated. That's where it gets strange, sir. The mirror was found shattered. Mrs. Mercer claims she broke it during the struggle with her husband. But our forensics team found blood inside the mirror's silver frame. Old blood, decades old, embedded in the silver itself. Rodriguez leaned forward. Whose blood? We don't know yet, but Mrs. Mercer suggested testing it against Diana Ellington's DNA. Says it might belong to her grandmother. Rodriguez rubbed his temples. Where is Mrs. Mercer now? That's the other thing, sir. After giving her statement, she disappeared. The house was sold to an anonymous buyer. No forwarding address. After the officer left, Rodriguez opened his drawer and withdrew a small evidence bag containing a card found behind the broken mirror. The yellowed paper bore faded words. What is done before the glass shall be revealed within the glass. Below, in fresher ink, someone had added, and what is required shall be taken in blood. 6 months later, in a coastal town 3,000 miles away, a woman with newly dyed blonde hair unlocked the door to her beachfront cottage. Catherine, now calling herself Eleanor, set down her groceries and checked her answering machine. Ms. Voss, the message began, using the surname she'd adopted. This is Martin Graves from the gallery. We've sold another of your mirror paintings. Client was quite taken with your technique. How do you create that three-dimensional effect? Catherine smiled, glancing at her latest work on the easel, a painting of an ornate mirror reflecting a scene different from what stood before it. She discovered her talent accidentally during therapy after James's death. Walking to her workroom, she opened a cabinet containing vials of mixed paints. Each bore a small label, James, Diana, Evelyn. Beside them stood a silver bowl containing remnants of the shattered mirror, its fragments still gleaming with peculiar intensity. She discovered that paint mixed with the powdered silver from the mirror's frame created images that seemed to move, to reveal truths. Catherine selected a vial labeled Rodriguez and added a drop to her palette. The detective was getting too close, asking too many questions about the missing mirror. Her next painting would show him looking in the wrong direction. As she worked, Catherine thought about the mirror's final revelation, the one that had come as she and James struggled, as the knife plunged into his chest. James hadn't been the first to use the mirror as a weapon. Generations of women had used it, from the executed witch who'd cursed it with her blood to Margaret Ellington to Evelyn Marsh. Each had pretended to be a victim while eliminating those who stood in their way. The mirror hadn't been warning Catherine. It had been teaching her. Now the mirror lived in her paintings, influencing new victims, spreading its power. And Catherine, no longer the naive woman who feared her husband's infidelity, had become its willing conduit. What is required shall be taken in blood, she whispered, mixing the paint with practiced precision. The silver glinted in the fading light, almost like a wink of approval. In her reflection in the studio window, Catherine could have sworn she glimpsed other women standing behind her, a chain of influences stretching back through time. Not victims after all, but predators who had found a way to use betrayal as both weapon and shield. The perfect crime, to be the victim everyone believes while the true villain bleeds into the mirror. The end.
Thank you for watching. If you liked the story, like, subscribe to the channel and share with your friends. Thank you.